Good morning, APU. That wasn't very good. Let's try it again. Good morning, APU. There we go. Well, I know Ephraim Smith spoke on Monday and gave a 20,000-foot overview of global and local engagement. I encourage all of you to think of what you could do. I was also told he ended by singing the song Loving Me Tenderly. I will not be doing that today, just so you know. But I'm really coming down to 500 feet today. I'm taking this concept of the fact that each one of us in this room must be concerned about global and local issues, and I'm bringing it down to one specific issue that is affecting us in this area here in Los Angeles, even if you're not aware of it. So let me give you some statistics before I jump into what I'm going to do, just to give you a picture of where we're heading. Here and on the other campus, roughly a couple thousand people. So do something for me real quick. Everybody put up both your hands with all of your fingers extended. Roughly, each one of you represents 10 foster children that are in Los Angeles County right now. That's how many foster kids are within 50 miles of our campus. So each one of you represents 10. Now the numbers are quite staggering. But that's where we're going to go. I'm going to, by the time we finish, challenge you to do something. My name is Bobby Duke. I'm the Dean of the School of Theology. I do have to make a shameless plug right here at the beginning for my school. So the first thing I'm going to mention real quick is a program we have that some of you might be interested in. It's a 5-year BA to MA program. Any of you in this program out there? A couple of you? We would like to have, there's 1,000 or so, we'd like 1,000 people in this program. But it's a way actually in 5 years to finish both your BA and a Master's of Arts in Pastoral Studies. So, Vocari program, go check it out. The second, for all of you that are a little bit more tactile, hands-on, we have an archaeological dig in Israel you may not be aware of, but APU, in partnership with Hebrew University, has a dig in Israel where we are digging up things from the Bronze Age. In fact, on that slide, you saw what looked like little hoops. Those are hoop earrings from 1200 BC that APU and our teams have excavated. So if you're interested in archaeology, if you're interested in pastoral ministry, come see me afterwards and/or go on the website. But today I want to talk about everyone can do something. I realize where you're sitting today in your seats, you can't be foster families like my wife and I have chosen to do. You are getting a college degree. You are studying a certain field. You might be doing education. You might be doing psychology. You might be pre-law. You might be social work. Where are the social work majors out there? Our social workers that we have worked with over the years with our foster children are those who have made the difference between a good placement and a bad placement. So thank you for what you do. But all of you can do something. Today I'm going to share some heroes that we have here in this room. I'm going to share about heroes we've hosted here on campus. I'm going to share about how you can be a hero. Now, what does kind of heroism look like? I think we all have a picture in our mind of being a hero looks like the movies. It's the Superman and the cape. It's the most popular one recently. It's the Wonder Woman. It usually has to do with power, strength, really taking care of business in a physical way. But all the people that I'm going to introduce to you today are heroes because of deciding to use their gifts for the good of children. Several years ago, I was over at Albertsons at the corner of Glendora and Route 66. I had my moment of heroism. What happened? I was pushing my cart back to my car. I was about halfway through the parking lot when all of a sudden I heard someone yell from the front of the store, "Stop him! Stop him! Stop him!" Well, I looked. One aisle over, here is a guy running like a sprinter in the Olympics with the biggest bottle of Jack Daniels I've ever seen. Massive. It still had the little plastic cap on the top that they have to put because of security reasons, and he is just flying down the next aisle. So I had my moment. I paused for that 1 second and said, what am I going to do? What I wanted to do was this. I wanted to run through that aisle with my basket at lightning speed, and right about the time he would cross my path at the next aisle, I was going to launch him at which point he would have fallen and the bottle would have been flying. I would have thought about picking up, and I'm like, no, it's Jack Daniels, let it crack. But anyways, I wanted that moment where I would do something powerful and strong. But then I stopped. Here was some 20-something running really fast. He had a weapon, a big bottle. I said, I'm north of 40. I'm 5'6". There are so many things that are going in the wrong direction for me. So what I did is I stopped and I used my head. I looked across the parking lot and I zeroed in on the license plate. I zeroed in on the license plate, quickly got out my phone, wrote down the numbers, walked back into the store, and they're all panicked and tizzy. I said, no, call the cops real quick, bring them in. So they came, I gave them the license plate number, and before they were able to get the cap off the Jack Daniels, the police were already at their house. Months later, a detective called me from Glendora PD and just said, hey, that was great. I mean, that helped us because we were able to secure it. But in some ways, it wasn't my picture of heroism. I want to do something physical, powerful, strong to be a hero. But at that moment, it was just using the gifts I had, which was just a quick mind to say, I need to get that license plate number, that made all the difference. I think sometimes our world is consumed with that moment of heroism that's going to take something that is superhuman. But what I'm going to say today is to help foster children in Los Angeles County, in Orange County, San Bernardino, Riverside, whatever state you're from, will not take that superhuman strength. It will take your presence. It will take you just showing up saying, I'm going to help. James 1:27. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to care for orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained by the world. Thank you so much for saying the Lord's Prayer today and reminding us of the global impact when we say things like, thy kingdom come. Well, I'm giving you one way today for you to say, I'm going to help God's kingdom come here on earth by providing love and care for children. As I mentioned, my wife and I have been involved with foster care since 2011. I will never forget that one morning where I got a phone call, and we were going to head over to Pomona, to the Department of Children and Family Services office, to pick up a 6-day-old little girl. She had a 12-year-old sister, an 8-year-old brother, and she was 6 days old. I don't know all the reasons she was torn from her family, but when we walked out of that office with a 6-day-old and not the other siblings, my heart was broken. Eventually, they were able to reunite as a family, but at that moment, I said, this is not how it's supposed to be, but I'm glad that we're able to be there. Other doors have opened up for me to cast some vision on what it can look like for what APU can do and what the faith community can do, because without the faith community, this situation will not be solved. In 2014, I was given a little micro grant from the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles to put on an interfaith foster care summit. We had about 200 clergy from all over the county and all over Southern California that came to this. Christine Devine, a local news anchor, came to it. Congresswoman Karen Bass flew in from DC to be part of it. But it was just me saying, what are some things we can do to bring clergy together? Last year, I was able to give a TEDx talk here at APU on the problem of foster care to college. Again, about 1,000 of you here in this room. If I had about probably 10 or 15 of you stand up, if all of you represent the foster kids that age out of the system each year, only about 10 or 15 of you would actually get a college degree. Less than 4% of foster children that hit 18 and aren't adopted will ever sit where you're sitting. Well, what happens? They end up homeless, they end up on drugs, they end up in prison. There's more that we can do, and I want to see APU be a place where we will take on that issue of foster care. This last year, I've met 2 more heroes. One we hosted here on campus, and one that was hosted down at Dream Center with Olive Crest. Charles Moley, talk about global perspective. Charles Moley was a very wealthy businessman in Kenya, and one day he gave it all up, and he said, our family is now going to be dedicated to foster kids, and they've been able to help tens of thousands of children find stability. And it just so happened last September, we hosted him here on campus to do a pre-screening of his film. What a humble man who just said, I'm available. 2 weeks ago down at Dream Center, Bishop Martin came and spoke to us from Possum Trot, Texas. In his joking, he said, well, where's Possum Trot? He said it's about 15 miles east of Coonville, and then he said some other things about where it's from. It's in the middle of nowhere in Texas. But his church of 70 people, his church of 200 people adopted 70 children. 20-some families in his church took in 70 children and basically cleared out the foster system and the adoption issues in that part of Texas. These are some of those people that have now gone on to what I would say that real heroic status when it comes to foster care. But some of the things that we can do here locally are actually things that APU graduates are already doing. And in just a minute after we watch this brief video, I'm going to introduce an APU alum who is doing work for children right now in Los Angeles County. Watch the video about Olive Crest. Well, I'd like to welcome to the stage Jaime Zavala. I'll let him tell a little bit about his background here at APU, because he was one of you, should I say how many years ago? Many.
Not that long ago.
All right, well, Jaime, introduce yourself.
Well, like Bobby said, my name's Jaime Zavala, and I have the privilege of serving as the executive director for an organization called Olive Crest. You just saw a video about what we do. I graduated from Azusa in 1995, before any of you were born, but you were on God's mind somewhere. And really, it was because of what God shaped in me at APU about being a person who can serve in the community that really has carried on as I've continued my journey of life and really been available to God to be of service in whatever way He wants me to be.
So in the mid-90s, when you were getting your communications degree here at Azusa Pacific, did you ever see that you would be in child welfare like you are today?
Nope.
So tell us about that journey from finishing at APU to where you're at today.
Yeah, I was actually talking to somebody about it today. And the reason I chose communication was because I thought everybody communicates, right? So I'm going to do something with that degree. And that's really what I've been doing kind of throughout the trajectory of my career. But prior to coming to Olive Crest and leading the organization, I was on staff at a church in Eagle Rock, Christian Assembly Church. And I was tasked with the challenge of leading our congregation of our local and international missions efforts. And during my time there, we were going through the Bible in a year, and I came across passages of Scripture that just stuck out to me about how the people of Israel were called to love and serve four groups of people: the poor among you, the foreigner in your land, the widow, and the orphan. And we were doing great things on two of those areas, the foreigner in our land and the poor among us, but we were really not doing anything collectively as a congregation, serving the widows and the orphans, and felt stirred to do something about that and launched a number of different efforts through our local church in helping to be the answer to the need that you've just been talking about.
Do you see the faith community here in Los Angeles starting to rise up and really take on this issue?
Absolutely. We've been praying for that for a number of years, and I want to say probably in the last 12 months, we've really seen a move of God's Spirit awakening the church and helping them to remember that this is who we've always been called to be, a lighthouse, a refuge. And it's been amazing to watch it in the evangelical community, and even most recently with the Catholic Church. That's one of our partners of the Archbishop of Los Angeles saying, hey, the Catholic Church wants to be a part of the solution, and we're working with them to really have local Catholic churches be a part of having foster families and also families serve at-risk kids in the communities. It's been amazing, overwhelming actually, in a good way.
So if I was able to bring you back and you could share before a chapel at APU, that's where we're at right now, what would be 2 to 3 things you would tell current APU students of things they can do right now to help foster children in Los Angeles County?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, very practical, is just be aware. Be aware of what's happening here in LA. And like Bobby said, there's a crisis in LA County. More kids in foster care in LA County than every single state in the country. There are about 68,000 kids in foster care in the state of California, and over half of them are in our backyard. So be aware. Number 2 is there are people in your surroundings that are probably engaged in foster care, and be a support person to them. You could be a babysitter, you could be a mentor to an at-risk kid in your community, or you can join with an organization, partner or volunteer, intern with organizations that are doing the work of foster care like Olive Crest and others that you'll mention in a second. But here's what I say to everyone who gives me a moment is we can't all be foster parents, but we can all do something.
Well, thank Jaime for joining us today as one of a graduates from your university. Out of curiosity, how many communications majors are out there? How many communications? So here's someone that many years ago was a communications major just like you, and through the way God worked in his life has brought him to a point where he can be on the front lines of changing the lives of foster children. Well, one of the other organizations that I have with me today that is going to be available afterwards, if any of you want to talk, is an organization called Dawn of Hope. In just a moment, I'm going to show you a video about Royal Family Kids. It's a program that puts on summer camps for foster children. How many of you ever went to a summer camp? For many of you, that was probably a life-changing experience. But again, when you're in the foster system, you may not have that opportunity. So this organization, Royal Family Kids, is saying we are going to do that. So Dawn of Hope LA and Royal Family Kids together are coming together to say, what can we do for these tens of thousands of children in LA County to provide them with opportunities like summer camps? So quickly watch this video of Royal Family Kids. So right now, Dawn of Hope is looking for people to help with summer camps this summer. I know out on Cougar Walk and out here in front of the plaza the last few days, there's been booths out about working at various summer camps, but there are also summer camps dedicated directly to helping foster children. We started thinking about Monday with just a call to global and local engagement. I then brought it to one particular issue here in LA County with foster children and the 18 to 20,000 children right here within 40, 50 miles of where we're located here at APU that are in this system. I mentioned a camp that all of you right now can be that hero to say, yes, I have a week I can give to a camp this summer. But even more, there is opportunities in the future that we may not even know yet, that to energize college students all over this country would be amazing. I may be wrong here, but one of the things that I see your generation of students teaching my generation is that it needs to go beyond just ideological talk, and we need to say, what actions are we going to do now? What are we going to do right now to make this happen? Now, when I was a kid growing up in the church we often had something called altar calls. Any of you ever heard of the term altar call? This would be one where often the chorus would be sung over and over again until people would come forward and they would make some kind of commitment to the Lord. Well, I think in today's current society, there are ways that we can take a challenge, almost lean into an altar call-like moment with some of these issues. Because your generation wants to say, show us a need, we're going to be able to solve it. We can help you, some of us that are a little bit older, to kind of steer you in that direction. But I am convinced if 1,800, 2,000 APU students were to get energized with this issue, that would infect Westmont, Cal Baptist, probably not Biola. Other schools all over the country could be infected to say, here's what one school has decided to do to help with this situation with the foster children in their local area. And one of the umbrella organizations that works on this is called Christians Alliance for Orphans. Christian Alliance for Orphans. And this organization is dedicated to bringing together various faith communities from all over the country, Olive Crest being one and others, to really say, what can we do with this situation? Well, they have a student initiative that says they are committed to connecting the next generation of orphan care advocates and world changers. I could go on and read more, but they have an initiative directed straight to you to say, what are you going to do to go ahead and put this on my radar, so that this will be something with whether or not I end up being a lawyer, a nurse, a doctor, a communications expert, teacher. I'm going to say that the children in my area that don't have homes are going to be someone that I care about. As we said in James 1:27, the orphans and the widows. If I was able to speak here on Friday, I then would go to the widows part and tell all of you, you better write your grandmas this afternoon and all that kind of stuff. But today I'm focused on orphans. But when it comes to what you can do, I'm going to probably break protocol, but right here, this is altar call. Here is altar call moment. I'm going to go ahead and give you permission. Sorry, chapel programs monitors. Go ahead and take out your phones. Yay, good. This organization, Christian Alliance for Orphans, if you go right now on their Facebook page, CAFO students, you can hit like right now, and you will start getting updates on things that your generation can do for students. Let me give you another challenge. If you are interested in helping with summer camps for foster children, giving a week of your time, or learning about where else that can be, right now with your cell phone, write me an email. I'm hoping that I get 100 or 200 emails in the next hour saying, I want to work at a camp. My email address, rrduke, 2 R's, duke at apu.edu. Just put the subject line camp, and I'll know what we're talking about. By the way, I'm not related to the Duke building at all. When I got my job here at APU after having a UCLA PhD, someone did come to me and say, now, how are you related to John and Marilyn Duke? Because that's how you got your job here, right? I said, no, that may have been true if I went to USC, but I went to UCLA. But right now, I will say, I'm giving an altar call virtually. Please take a moment and say, could I be someone who would commit to working with kids at summer camp? Would I be someone who wants to be part of a student initiative nationwide that says, I want to care for orphans? Right now, in our local community, are hundreds and hundreds of foster children. On Monday night, my wife volunteers once a month at the Department of Children and Family Services on Grand Avenue. If you've ever driven down Grand Avenue, right across from El Pollo Loco, LA Fitness, is the office here in our local area. In that office, they have almost 2,000 children that are in their span of care out of that one office in Glendora. Well, my wife volunteers and just sits there with children if they've been detained. It just so happened on Monday night, there was a 13-year-old and a 3-month-old that she was sitting with while they were trying to find homes. I mean, here's a family now, 2 children whose lives have just been destroyed in various ways. We often talk about privilege, and I will say the fact that you are sitting here in chapel at a Christian college in 2018 makes you an incredibly privileged person. Everyone can do something. And I will say, this is an issue that isn't just me saying this should be important. This is an issue that is what true religion is all about. So if you go out here today and can't think of a way that you can make a difference in the life of a child, I'm going to question whether or not you're truly committed to what God is committed to. Everyone can do something. Everyone can be a hero. It may not be that superhero strength coming through. It might be you just saying, I'm a graphic artist. How can I work with a local agency that needs some graphic artist help? I'm someone that can speak Spanish. How can I work with children who have been taken out of their home and are now in a foster family that may not have the ability to communicate? The ideas are infinite, and your generation is the one that I think can solve these problems. Let's pray. Dear Lord, we come to you this morning and ask that you grip our hearts. I know this was a life-changing moment for my wife and I when we decided to say yes to foster care. I know as a family we're just scratching the surface of how many things that people can do, and I'm excited to see the faith community stepping up and saying we are going to make a difference. I pray for every student in this room today that they will say, what am I going to do something? Please guide us and direct us into knowing what we need to do for the good of children. For it's in your name I pray. Amen. If you're interested in talking more, we'll be right up here in the front afterwards. Have a good day.